I had no voicemails. The only other messages I could think of was ICQ. So I powered up the old computer again to check on my ICQ account. It's possible there was nothing. I just had to make sure. It took forever to load up. But there was a message waiting. It wasn't from anyone I recognized. The name on the account was Bernie Bush. The message said, Heaven. There was a link to an MP4 video. I clicked it. The download box said it would take 30 hours to complete. So I just let it go. I tried replying to Bernie, too, but ICQ alerted me that the account was disabled. I also couldn't find any results in any search for such a person. I don't think Ben would ever make a fake account like that. But how did Ben know about the message? I got contacted by someone from Guelph University's campus security later that day. They asked me when I'd last spoken to Ben. I told them he'd just called. They said he hadn't been to work in a few days and had not been answering the phone. I was apparently the last one to hear from him. They recommended I file a missing persons report. I asked if his family shouldn't do that, but the dude just snorted. So I made the report, over the phone, to the Guelph PD. I was pretty worried about the guy. I hoped he was okay. I also hoped his disappearance had nothing to do with anything I got him involved in. The next day, I got an email replying to my Post Newsgroup post. I recognized the address. It was the same person who posted about the dog. She said I needed to call her urgently and provided a 1-800 number followed by what looked like a license plate number for 72 BMT. When I called, I got an interactive menu system for a tanning supplies company. When I listened to the options, I got the idea that 472 BMT might be how to navigate the menu. So I pressed each of the numbers in the order she said. The system said I was being transferred to an account specialist. I heard someone pick up the line. "You're starting to remember, aren't you?" a voice said. I think I gasped. She said she couldn't talk long, so I had to just listen. She wanted to tell me something that might help me. She said she started remembering about a year ago. She remembered the sessions in Egypt. They preyed on vulnerable, misfit kids. Whoever came there got introduced gradually to this website called The Hole. Once they showed it to us, we had to sit there and study it. Solve its puzzles. But it'd change us. That's what they always said. She didn't know if they built it or not. But it's what they were all about. "I think we're still in the hole," she said. I tried to ask her what that even meant. What she was talking about. She had already hung up before I got the chance. I tried calling her back, but the menu options didn't work anymore. I was more confused than ever. I felt like I didn't know what was real anymore. That's a terrible place to be. Trust me. All I was sure of was that I'd come into something very wrong when I was a teen and it was coming back. I didn't know why it took a vacation or what it wanted. I just wanted my life back to normal. After that, I suddenly remembered the video file I left downloading on my old computer. I checked and it had completely downloaded. I wasn't sure I wanted to know what it was, but I played it anyway. I knew what I was looking at as soon as the video started. It was footage of inside Egypt. It had been a long time. But it hit me fast. There was no timestamp, the footage was grainy and the tracking was off, but I knew it. It looked like it was from a corner security cam. There we all were, sitting at our computers. Strangely enough, our backs were to the monitors. We were staring at a wall. I spotted myself in the group. We just sat there, staring ahead. Nobody was moving or saying anything. I couldn't make out what the computers were doing behind us, but we weren't touching them. What were we staring at? What were we doing? Why would I do this? I couldn't remember these events at all. I was the only one that ever looked away from the wall. I kept glancing over behind the bar. It was hard to tell, but I think I was afraid of something. I looked frightened. I tried to make out what I was looking at, but the tracking lines were in the way. When they faded a little and I was able to make it out, someone was standing there in the shadows. Whoever it was, at just that moment turned to look right at the camera. It's like they knew I was watching. I know that's crazy, but it creeped the heck out of me. I shut the video down there, and I don't plan to open it again. After that, I kept researching the new way, 'cause there had to be something to it. I was able to find a record that mentioned the owner's name, Bernard K. Bush. The same name as on the ICQ message. I looked for obituaries, white pages, and anything that could lead me to him. I didn't think to look for missing person cases, but I stumbled on one anyway. An old homepage asking to help us find Uncle Bern. I emailed his niece, presumably from the address listed, asking for more information. The page was made in the year 2000, so I didn't expect the email to work. But it did. I got a reply the same day asking me how I knew Uncle Bern. I wasn't sure how to answer, but I decided to go with honesty. I told her more or less what was going on, leaving out the parts that would make me sound delusional. This is what I got back. I'm going to put this all in one message because I don't want us to have to talk again. Uncle Bern was a good man. He used to be a rabbi. He raised me after my parents died in an accident. He was good with electronics. He thought computers were the future. That's why he called his company The New Way. He bought up all the commercial space he could afford with his inheritance. All over the country. It was more than he could handle. So he just rented it out. Life was good. He kept selling computers in his little shop. I helped when I got home from school and on weekends. He kept bees and I helped with that, too. Really, life was good. Until he married Connie in 1994. He met her during a visit to Europe. He said she worked in the same orphanage she'd been raised in and nobody knew much else about her. She was a strange woman. She didn't like me. She was into things that scared me. I saw her make a homeless man cry by staring at him. Animals would go quiet when she was around. Sometimes she'd hide under my bed for hours, waiting for me to go to bed at night. When I did, she'd slide out and grab me. I'd scream and scream. She'd walk away as if nothing happened. She didn't laugh or say anything. It wasn't a prank or joke. It was something else. I didn't understand. I still don't. I started sleeping on a beanbag chair in the basement after that. She'd often go into a corner of the room and whisper to someone. There was nobody there. No phone or anything. She'd even get mad at whoever it was. Then she'd go back to knitting. She was always knitting something, but the things she knit were useless. Gloves with 3 fingers. Socks, but she'd seal up the ends, so you couldn't wear them. I didn't hate her. I was scared to death of her. I don't know why she made Uncle Bern so happy. I remember the day she started pressuring him to turn his rental spaces into internet cafes. She told him the internet was the real future and would outlast computers. She'd say, "We are the internet." She made him get it at home, even though it was really expensive then. She had him go to this website she said didn't really exist. I remember that because it always made me nervous when she talked about it. Uncle Bern asked her who made it. She said she had no idea. Nobody did. She found it already made, just like everyone else. She told him it was called to her. It called to everyone like her. At the time, I thought that sounded flaky. Now it just gives me the creeps. Uncle Bern changed after that. They spent a lot of time on that website. I don't understand it. There was nothing there. I looked over their shoulders and it was all blank. But they saw all sorts of things. And when internet cafes started opening, more people were involved. It was strange. They would sit and stare into space. And strange things would happen. I could swear I heard a voice in my modem when I'd dial up, and when I listened, it was saying, "It hurts." I decided it was all in my head. Another time I got an email asking, why wasn't I able to remember? I don't know why that message upset me so much. 20 years ago, but I remember it so vividly. One night when I was alone with Uncle Bern for once, I told him I wished things would be like they used to be. He said that's what everyone wants. But it can't be. He leaned in close and whispered, "It talks. Tells us things." He told me about how this is strange and I didn't understand it, but I'll try. How human beings are set to be obsolete and they need to upgrade for the new era. He said Y2K, if you remember that, wasn't going to affect computers as everyone thought. They'd be fine. It was going to change people. Either you evolved or you wouldn't like what's coming. I didn't dare tell my Uncle Bern that this was crazy. I couldn't hurt his feelings like that. But I knew something bad was going to happen. He and Connie went off to open their internet cafes all over and I left home for college. Uncle Bern kept in contact until 1999. Then he just disappeared. Connie, too. I know some bad things happen around those internet cafes. But it's not Uncle Bern's fault. Please don't blame him. I had plenty more questions and I sent them to her. I never heard back. That's getting to be a real motif in my life. But at least she gave me some answers. And it all led right back to the hole. It had to be the same mysterious website. Just had to be. I figured if I ever wanted to know what was going on, I'd have to go to the hole myself. I pulled up the instructions Angelica sent me on how to get there. I can't say I felt like I was doing the right thing. I didn't. It felt ass over the tea kettle wrong. Like there was something really terrible just off screen in my memories. I knew it was there, but I couldn't see it. So I welcomed the interruption when my phone rang. My neighbor was calling to tell me the man in the bee costume was back. He said the man was standing in my front yard. I walked over to the window and peeped out. It was nice and toasty inside, but I felt my whole body breaking into goosebumps. He was there, under the street light, looking right at the window with his insectoid eyes. I asked my neighbor how long he'd been there. He said he called me as soon as he saw it and that I should hang up and call the police. I started to do that. But there was no point in calling the police. As soon as I hung up, he walked across the road and into the woods. When hanging up, I received a notification on my phone of an email from Ben. There was no text, just a video file. I played it right away. It started with him speaking to the camera. He looked scared and like he hadn't had sleep in about 2 days. "I went into hiding," he said, his voice shaking. "Things just got too weird. little stuff at first. Then one night, like 3 a.m., a group of people I've never seen before knock on my door. I didn't answer. I watched them through the peephole. They didn't move. They didn't knock again. They didn't try to look in the peephole. They just stood there, staring at the door. They didn't look homeless or crazy. Just people. Normal, everyday people. I called through the door that they had the wrong address. They started laughing, loud, fake guffaws. Then they silently walked away. Then I start getting calls where all I can hear is a man growling like a dog on the other end. And a few growly words, like, why, and abracadabra. It must have really gotten to me, man, because I started having fits. I don't know what I do during these fits. I know I upset a lady at the grocery store. Whatever you got me into, it's bad juju. Like KGB. Illuminati bad. He pointed the camera away from himself to a computer monitor. When he was turning, I recognized the notepad on the desk. The same one from his description. He was in that basement storage locker. With the gopher sight. I thought he'd shut that thing down. There was an image on the screen, updating every few seconds. But this one wasn't pointing at my house like before. It was inside.